Also, parents must strive to love, teach, and govern biblically. Now, again, why am I telling you this? Because I want you to see that even though I'm sure your parents, many of them really tried, took you to church and everything else, I want you to see we all grew up in this culture where parents thought they were doing right just by taking their kids to Sunday school. They thought that they were fulfilling the command, raise up a child, in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he'll not depart from it. They thought that meant taking them to church. No, it means investing your entire life in your children, so that if it's a girl, she grows up in pure Christian femininity and beauty. If it's a man, if it's a young boy, he grows up in a solid, biblical, Christ-like masculinity. That's not been done for you. That's not been... I didn't even start asking these questions myself until I was 39 years old. And I got news that my wife, who had had a brain tumor for 8 years, and we couldn't have children, and I found out I was going to have a boy. I was going to be a father. And I remember, I've preached in jungles to men who wanted to kill me, everything you can imagine. But I fell down on my knees that day and I realized when it comes to family, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to children, I'm a pagan. I'm a saved pagan. What do the Scriptures say? What does it mean to be a man? Because now, whatever I do is going to influence another young man, another young girl. Now, so I must strive to teach biblically, to govern biblically, to love biblically. Goes on. This is one of my favorite passages in the Bible, Deuteronomy 6, 5 through 9. Listen, now this is the responsibility of a father, of a biblical father. This is his responsibility. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. These words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your sons, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontals on your forehead. You shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. That's the responsibility of a biblical man. That's what you were supposed to have received every day of your life. A man standing before you constantly teaching you what it means to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And notice, many people get this wrong. They think that what's being said here is that you're supposed to teach your kids a whole bunch of principles. Well, Christianity has principles, and it has commands, and it has a specific morality, but that's not what this is talking about. It's talking about, through your teaching and your life example, your children would see what it's like for a real man to love the Lord his God with all his heart, soul, mind, and strength. Not just someone who can teach principles or run a household based upon some legal system. But to be passionate about Christ. Your wife is going to need the same thing. It doesn't matter how spiritual your future wife is. She was not designed by God, regardless of what Christian feminists say today, she was not designed by God to be everything she could be alone. She will never be everything that she could be unless you assume the rightful place in her life and pour into her so that she becomes everything God wants her to be. Now, Joshua 4, 5 and 7. And Joshua said to them, cross again the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan, and each of you take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Israel. Let this be a sign among you, that when your children ask later, saying, what do these stones mean to you? You shall say to them, because the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be a memorial to the sons of Israel forever. What does that mean? You're to be a man of God who fights God's battles. And when you see God do tremendous things in your life and through you, you write them down. You set them down. You remember them so that when you go to your children, you can say, I saw this. God did this. God delivered me here. God was faithful here. God changed me here. You see. Guys, this is all about God. And this is all about eternity. It's not about your best life now. It's all about Him. Every last bit of it. It's all about Him. Now, Ephesians 6:4, Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. He's not commanding this to Sunday school teachers, youth leaders, or anything like that. It's the father's primary responsibility. It says, my primary responsibility as a man is to know Christ. After that, it's my wife. It's my primary responsibility. After that, it's my children. After that, it's the ministry. And that's the way it goes. It's the way it has to be. Now, you may not be in the ministry when you graduate from college, but it's going to have to be the same thing for you. If you think that you have done well because you have provided financially for your family, you have no clue what the Scriptures say. As a matter of fact, guys, this is the way it's going to be if you're going to be biblical. You're going to work and work and work and work. And when you come home at 5 in the afternoon and you're completely wore out, guess what? Your job just began. Then you're going to pour your life into your family until you go to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. You are not going to sit down and watch TV. You're not going to go out with your buddies and do all kinds of things. You are going to pour your life into your wife and your children, and you are going to go to bed tired. And you're going to get up again and you're going to do it all over again. This is the Christian life. Not hanging out with your buddies, not doing all this. No. It's that. And it's enough. It's enough. But then also realize this. A man so dedicated to his family, there'll be a time. Like for me, I love to hunt and things like that. My wife will just come to me and say, here's your bow, here's your arrows, here's your tree stand, go out, have a good time, kill something. Because they know he's poured out his life. And she will learn, as you have given your life to bless her, she will learn to give her life to bless you. Instead of you fighting for your territory and your free time, and she fighting for her territory and her free time, it'll be one of servanthood. But I want us to look just for a minute, a deeper look at Ephesians 6, 1 through 3. Children, obey your parents. The word means to listen to hearken to, of one who on hearing the knock at a door comes to listen who it is, the duty of a porter. It's someone who lives in obedience to someone else. Now, you are no longer children. There's a heresy out there that says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, and it means, they say, if you're 45, you should still be obeying your dad. That's not true. You should still be honoring your dad. But you're a man in your own right, or you're supposed to be. You're to be making decisions. But here's what you need to understand. That whole time that my children are under my house, they're in my house, under my roof, I am to pour my life into them. I am to sacrifice for them. I am to teach them the Scriptures. I'm going to lead them by example. And their responsibility is to honor me, to obey me, to hearken to my voice. And that's a terrible responsibility on my side. Because if my children do obey me, then everything that falls will be accounted as my responsibility on Judgment Day. If my children are doing what they're supposed to be doing, obeying me, then I am going to be responsible on the day of judgment for the way that I have led my children. Now, in the Lord, it says, obey your parents in the Lord, in the context of the Lord's authority. I don't just with a whim command my children to do certain things. No, I let my children know that I am under authority and I am sharing with them the same authority that I'm under. That means that this isn't my game. I'm not king. I'm someone under authority, God's Word. And since I have to obey this Word, and this Word has brought such blessing in my life, in my house they will obey this Word. They will obey. Now, for this is right, it's righteous, it's observing divine law, it's pleasing to God. Honor your father and your mother. See them as valuable, extremely valuable. That's what it means to honor something, to give it weight, to give it worth. You say, well, my father's an unbeliever, or my father's a drunk. That may be true, but whenever you can, and as much as you can, you must seek to honor him. Even ask his opinion. Want to know what he thinks. To go to him first of all. Doesn't mean you'll agree every time. It doesn't mean you do what He says all the time now that you're men. But it means that you will honor your father. You will show value to him. You will show value to your mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may be well with you and that you may live long on the earth. A reference to a blessed life without fear. Fear of divine judgment. You see, you can dishonor your mother and your father, and that can have effects upon the entirety of your life. Not only that, it can affect your children and your children's children. And on down. Do you realize that? That your rebellion can be carried through, down through the ages. Can you imagine Solomon coming to his dad, King David? Let's say Solomon's 15. He says, Dad, I've been noticing that girls are pretty. David goes, well, Solomon, that's good. You know, they are. It's a good thing. It's a manly thing. It's something that you ought to do. That's wonderful. He said, yeah, Dad, I got a lot of questions. How did you meet Mom? Can you imagine? How did you meet Mom? Well, I was walking out on the palace rooftop one day and I looked over and I saw her bathing. Well, I'm sure, Dad, that she covered herself up and you turned away. Well, actually, no, I didn't turn away. I called for her to come over to the palace. Yeah, but, Dad, I guess that's okay. I mean, after all, she's single and you're... Well, actually, no, she was married. Well, Dad, I'm sure... when you saw that, you must have, knew she had a husband then. Well, no, I killed her husband. And so look at Solomon after him. How many concubines, how many wives? You see, what we do has a tremendous impact on those who follow us. A tremendous impact.